feels like I've been here all before. Radio humming, the world feels right. Every little thing's in tune tonight. Shadows fade, the truth comes through. Fresh start in the morning blue. Hey, now blue sky shining down. Left your feet don't touch the ground. Laughing off, let the good times stay. Oh yeah, it's a blue sky day. Oh, coffee steaming, a smile breaks free. Simple joys are enough for me. Stones roll out, but I don't mind. Sun's still waiting on the other side. Turn it up, feel the sound. Wake up, sunlight tapping on the door. Feels like I've been here all before. Radio humming, the world feels right. Every little thing's in tune tonight. Shadows fade, the truth comes through. Fresh start in the morning blue. Hey now, blue sky shining down. Lift your feet, don't touch the ground. Laugh it off, let the good times stay. Oh yeah, it's a blue sky day.
Woo! Good morning, A. You're listening to Conservative Cat on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, wherever you get your podcast. Wait, hold on. I want to make sure. Yes, we have audio. It's been funky the last couple of days where I've got to like triple check and make sure we have audio. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm really close to 1,001.1, 1,100. I'd love that. It was my goal to get to 1,000 in December by Christmas. You guys are just so lovely. I love the subscribers. I love the listeners. Follow me on Rumble. I prefer that platform. Obviously, ScrewTube, YouTube sucks. I would prefer you listen on Rumble, but subscribe to YouTube. That's a big help. If you guys want to support the program, patriotpumpenergy.com. Get your bottle of Patriot Pump pre-workout today. It's fruit punch flavor. Get the promo code Conservative Cat at checkout, $10 off. This is good stuff. 150 milligrams of caffeine. You will be wired all day. Why? Because it has black pepper extract. Black pepper extract makes caffeine work for you, keeps your focus. After 150 milligrams of caffeine, it really just stops working for you. So highly recommend the product. We've got so much to get to today. Alex Pretti, he was on the Fed's radar. So this comes out. He had a broken rib. Okay. Not in this most recent clash with ICE Saturday where he lost his life. Tragically, it's tragedy. I know, like, I don't feel terrible. I mean, any loss of life is awful. But I really don't feel like guilty or bad for this guy. He put himself in that situation. It's almost like a drunk driver, right? Do you feel really bad about a drunk driver getting behind the wheel and killing himself behind the wheel? No. I to the extent that he was a human and all life is valuable, I feel for his family. But at the end of the day, it looks like more and more it was this guy's fault 100%. And I said that from the beginning. It's looking more like the SIG P320 320. I don't know how you say it. I was looking into this, chatted with my husband about it. Actually, he said, "Oh yeah, no, all my friends, they got rid of their SIGs because they have trigger issues." It's looking more and more like the ICE officer or the Border Patrol agent. Sorry, excuse me. Grabbed the gun, and then there's like this clip of the slide kind of racking back, and that's when I think like he had grabbed the gun off his person. Somebody had shouted "gun," and then grabbed the gun off his person. There was an accidental shot fired because these guns are sort of notorious for that. Dropping it, it goes off, but goes off the gun accidentally, and then that prompts from two other Border Patrol agents gunfire, and they fire shots until he's down and subdued. So yeah, I've told you before, self-defense lawyer I follow, he's really good. He takes you through self-defense law. And in this situation, just the fact that the word gun was shouted, that is a reasonable perception of imminent danger or deadly force, which can be met with defensive deadly force. Okay, these are legal terms, reasonable perception. Okay, so he doesn't even have to perceive the situation correctly, the officer, in order to be justified in that shooting. So it's looking more and more like this is going to be deemed a justified shooting. Shame on President Donald Trump. Not very happy with him. He's meeting with Kristi Noem. I don't think that they're getting fired or anything like that. Kristi Noem, Bavino, but they're shifting towards Tom Homan, which I love Tom Homan, and I hope that they don't take the foot off the gas when it comes to these mass deportations, because we are nowhere near. If we want to get the 20 million illegals that poured over the border under the Biden administration, if we want to get them out of here, we've got to ramp up the mass deportations to a Barack Obama level, right? But it seems like they might be taking their foot off the gas. That would be disappointing. We do have to talk about Representative Ilhan Omar for a good portion of the show today. She was sprayed with an unknown substance at this staged town hall event. And apparently this substance was really stinky. It was smelled like vinegar. We're going to break it down frame by frame. Was this a staged town hall event? Was this whole thing staged? You tell me by the end of the show. Okay. Later, we are going to be talking about a Chicago teacher. I'm shocked because, like I told you, the industries that I least respect, and I think that I'm not alone in this, the industries that I least expect least respect would be healthcare and teaching. Our kids can't read at grade level. The teachers have become activists. Maybe it's partly due to it being a very overwhelmingly unionized industry. The teachers' unions are insane. And then you have nursing. Everybody's thrown around, he's an ICU nurse. And then they spiffed up this photo of him to make him look like, a white guy that we can get behind, like a less feminized white guy. They spiffed up this photo of him in his scrubs, like quite literally edited it and made his face, like really edited his nose, took away the Jewish features of his face. I don't know if he's Jewish, but he just had like a very prominent Jewish nose. This Alex Pretti guy, but they like prettied him up in these edits, and then MSNBC, CNN, like they're sharing this photo out there and it's not even really him. Fascinating. But they're also like including the fact that he was an ICU nurse. That is so irrelevant. What's more relevant is that he was in signal chats and that he had a confrontation with ICE a week ago, prior to his death, prior to Saturday. He had a confrontation that ultimately ended in his rib being broken. So that tells you all you really need to know about this guy. Even after he had a rib broken by ICE agents in a different separate confrontation, he still went out there. He went out there this time with a loaded gun and engaged in confrontation with Border Patrol at an address, by the way. We covered this yesterday in the show. show's archived for you. You guys can go check it out. This address has 8 businesses, healthcare related businesses, businesses like Global Interpreting Innovations. I don't know what the hell you do at Global Interpreting Innovations. Probably nothing. Probably federal tax dollars, state tax dollars are getting funneled into these businesses. And they're supposed to be providing services, but the services are never really provided. They're just pocketing taxpayer dollars. Perhaps these businesses are immigrant run Somalians who are pocketing it, taking the money, running and living these lavish lifestyles and exploiting the taxpayer. So there were 8 businesses registered at the address. I don't know if Border Patrol was there carrying out an operation related to that address, but that address is fascinating because it's 1,100 square foot, 8 businesses running out of it, 184 national provider identifying numbers. These are numbers assigned to practitioners, doctors, nurses. Apparently there's 184 of them in an 1,100 square foot building. I don't think so. Okay, so yeah, we're talking about Chicago teachers. This one teacher actually, he put out there, and I don't even understand how this faced like such backlash because it was 2 words. This teacher puts out there, "Go ICE" on social media. Now that could mean like, "Go get out of here, ICE. We don't want you, ICE." And that's what I thought when I originally saw the social media post, but apparently the woke thought it was like, "Go ICE, you can do it, ICE," and like was promoting ICE, this Chicago teacher. So now he's facing disciplinary action over that social media post. And it was a 2-word social media post. It was a remark about ICE. It's ambiguous. I think you can interpret it either way, like "Go ICE, get out of here," or "Go ICE," like woohoo, keep going. But either way, the poor guy or girl, I don't know, because the teacher's name has been withheld in news reports due to the teacher's safety, because obviously the woke is insane enough to go out there and hurt this person. So this person's identity has been kind of concealed. I haven't been able to figure out who it is, but the Chicago teacher is facing disciplinary action despite this just being a 2-word social media post. So we're going to get to all of that first. I'm going to do something a little different today. There was a local pastor, and I love this small town pastor. He's great. Shared this out on social media, and I wanted to share it with you. I read it early this morning, and it really opened my eyes a little bit and prompted my faith to grow. And I hope that it does the same for you. This is the story of Philemon, and you can read it. It's a very small book in the Bible towards the end. Okay, so Philemon, I hope I'm saying this right. And if I'm wrong, throw the pronunciations. You guys can help me out in the chat. You guys help me out throughout the show every single day. Sprayed Ilmar with pig manure or pig urine. Perhaps that might be it. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll get to that story, I promise. I'm going to get to this. Philemon, illegal immigration and impossible situations. Okay, and this is not mine. This was a pastor. I'm not going to say his name because I didn't get permission, but this is a pastor in a small town in Illinois. He shared this out, and it really grew my faith this morning and made me look at this whole thing in Minneapolis a totally different way. So here it goes. The great apostle Paul won Philemon, a slave owner, okay, to Christ. So he won him to Christ. The apostle Paul won this guy to Christ. Slave ownership at that time was legal. It was the law of the land. I'm not defending slavery. It's just the facts of the story. Philemon became a changed man, as does everyone when they follow Christ. He's a new creation, a sincere disciple of Jesus, but he continued to own slaves, Philemon. Okay. Years went by, and Paul was imprisoned, we know, in Rome for preaching the truth about Jesus. While there, he met another man. Now, I might butcher his name. Onesimus. I think I'm saying his name correctly, if I'm saying it wrong, throw it in the comment section. But Onesimus. So Paul met Onesimus. Okay, and it turned out Onesimus happened to be a runaway slave. And in his running, he ran into Rome. He ran to Rome and he met Paul, and Paul led this man to Christ. And Onesimus also became a changed man, much like the Apostle Paul and Philemon. Onesimus, this runaway slave, became a changed man as well through Jesus Christ. In time, Paul put the whole picture together. Onesimus, who's his old master? You guessed it, Philemon. So Philemon, slave owner, he was the master of this runaway slave, Onesimus. Okay. Now, Paul from prison discipled to Onesimus to follow Jesus. And Paul loved him, Onesimus. Okay, loved him enough to tell him about Jesus. So Paul found Onesimus to be useful and encouraging. He found this guy to have a faith that was very genuine, Onesimus. Okay. And after a short season, Paul did something very peculiar. And it makes us kind of scratch our heads like, what the heck is Paul talking about here? And you guys, I encourage you to go read this book. It's in the Bible towards the end, Philemon. Really small very small book. And Paul does something very peculiar here. Okay. And it kind of makes us scratch our heads and we go, wait a minute, what? Paul sent this little runaway slave, Onesimus, back to his master. He said, go back. What? Wait a second. He had to do this. Paul had to do this. Why? Because right or wrong, it was Roman law at the time. Like I said, slavery was legal at the time. He did this because Onesimus was living outside of the will of God for his life. Okay. He was living outside of this. If you're breaking the law, you're living outside of God's will. Okay. And he did this, Paul, because Onesimus had to face his fear, had to face his doubts. So Paul sent him back to his master, encouraged him to go back to his master, back to slavery, back to bondage, back to servitude. So Onesimus, he could have responded in many, many ways at that time. Okay. He could have ran away just from Rome and just forgot about Paul. He could have argued with Paul. He could have turned from God and said, why, I've been listening to Paul. He's been discipling and teaching me about Jesus. Why would this guy say this? Tell me to go back to slavery. I'm just abandoning God altogether. In the eyes of everyone else, he would have been justified, okay, with any of these responses, okay? Had he argued with Paul, ran away, turned from God, he would have been justified with any of these responses had he done that. But Onesimus did not respond in either of those ways. Onesimus was a true follower of Jesus. So Onesimus didn't tell Paul that he was totally out of his mind. He didn't fight or flee. He didn't rebel. No, Onesimus did something incredibly difficult. He did something radical, in fact. And this is the true picture of courage. Okay, he obeyed. Paul told him to go back to your master because it's Roman law. So he returned to his master, Philemon. You see, Onesimus no longer belonged to himself. He was God's. And so, with Jesus in his heart and Paul's letter in his hand, he returned back to his slave owner. He returned of his own free will. He returned humbly, and he returned knowing that God was with him no matter what he was going to face. This is absolutely bold, an incredible story. He overcame his fear. He overcame the uncertainty. He stepped fully into God's plan for his life. He defeated doubt. He trusted God, and he walked in real faith. Onesimus. Once Paul told him, go back. And I'm telling you this because it's Roman law, and you are living outside of the law. So therefore, you're living outside of God's will for your life, man. And God did a wonderful thing. So the two, master and slave, became brothers in Christ, and they bonded over the blood of Jesus, and forever were united in the family of God. So they were like pals once he came back. What a miracle. So let me say it again. This is a miracle. Now, the story is not a defense of modern slavery. Okay, modern day slavery. This is not a defense saying, like, yes, slaves should be a thing, or slaves should go to their slave master or their slave owners, their masters. Not at all. Okay. Paul told the slaves elsewhere in scripture that he told slaves that had turned to Christ, and this is in Corinthians 7:21, 1 Corinthians 7:21. If you can earn your freedom, do so. Okay, that's what he told the slaves who had turned to Christ. If you can earn your freedom, do so. I personally value freedom for all men, and I'm believing for freedom in every nation. I want people to have freedom. You know, I want them to have what we have here in America. But Paul knew something here. He knew that God can make people thrive in their walk with Jesus anywhere, even in impossible circumstances. Okay, going back, Onesimus was probably like, this is going to be impossible. He's a slave owner. I'm a slave. Like, I am no longer going to be in a state of happiness anymore. I should have just ran away. Like, he could have said all of that, but he didn't. He knew it was going to be an impossible circumstance he was walking into. And it's what God does. He can redeem even the harshest of situations and turn it for good. And he's the only one who can do that. So he did it back in Paul's day. God did it back in Paul's day for Onesimus. He can do it now. And the pastor goes on. This is a small town pastor. I'm not going to say his name. I didn't get his permission. But he shared this. He says, so what I would say to the illegal immigrants today, even those facing deportation right now in 2026 America, and anybody facing really impossible situations or what seems like an impossible situation. And I don't doubt that, you know, some of these people aren't Venezuelan gang members, right? I don't doubt that there might be some people facing deportation, and they literally came here for just a better economy and a better life. Okay, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, things that other parts of the world don't recognize. They might have just come here for a better life, and they're facing deportation, and that feels like an impossible situation. So the pastor goes on. He says, so here's what I would say to illegal immigrants today. If you can earn your U.S. legal citizenship, U.S. legal status, or U.S. citizenship, go ahead and do so. So Corinthians 7:21, 1 Corinthians 7, if you can earn your freedom, do so. But if not, don't be afraid. Go be deported. And God is still a God of miracles, like he was for Onesimus. Your story might not wind up looking like Onesimus's right away, but God can make you thrive. As long as you've got God, you've got everything. And that's what a lot of these immigrants facing deportation don't have. They don't have Jesus. So they're freaked out by deportation. And they flee, they're violent. They do everything they can to not face that impossible situation. I would encourage the illegal immigrants to do what Onesimus did. Face the impossible situation head on, knowing that you've got God on your side and God can make your story beautiful. The pastor goes on. He says, now I understand that Paul carried real authority. He was in prison, suffered for Christ, a giant faith, an apostle. I am not going to pretend that I carry the same weight as Paul. I'm simply a pastor of a small town, of a small church in a small town. But God's word is still the same. It never changes. It carries the same authority. It is powerful and trustworthy. All of God's promises for your life are true. He is the author. He is writing your story right now. He will never abandon you. He will never leave you. He will never forsake you. And he will walk with you through it all. Remember Joseph, remember Daniel and his 3 friends, remember Esther, and the list goes on and on. Exiled, alone, uncertain. But God was with them all and used them to change the course of history. Why? Because God's will is bigger than man's will, and his purposes will always prevail. And he doesn't fail, and he won't ever fail you. Not now, not ever. Americans often think that God is only good in America. And that's what I've kind of, in reading this from the pastor this morning and, being deep in prayer before coming on today, this really grew my faith, this part. Americans often think that God is only good in America. God is good everywhere, even in the very dark corners of the earth, even in Somalia. Okay. The world will tell you to rebel. The world will tell you to fight to the bitter end, to resist, and to stick it to the government. Why? Because they operate in anger and they operate in fear. And it's all they know because they don't have Jesus. So what's going on in Minneapolis right now, the immigrants, the white people who have projected their ideology onto these immigrants, they all don't have Jesus. If these immigrants had Jesus, say the Somalian immigrant facing deportation had Jesus, there would be a courage to go back, knowing that God's the author of your story, not your circumstance, not your situation, not your location. And, they don't know Jesus. These people who are saying, resist, stick it to the government. They don't know Jesus, and they've never learned to trust him completely. But you are his child, his beloved, and you are the reason he died on Calvary. So if you stay humble and soft before the Lord, if you will commit your way to the Lord, if you will dwell in the secret place with God in prayer and submit yourself to him, if you listen to him and obey, he will not ever allow your foot to slip. He will fulfill his promise for your life, and he will use you for his glory. Your testimony will be good, and it'll impact many lives. And in the last day, when you stand before Jesus, he will open his arms and say to you, well done, my good and faithful servant, and you will enter into my Father's rest. Enter into my Father's rest. Hearing those words will be the prize, and it'll be worth everything. It'll be worth stepping into the uncertain or into this impossible situation. So the pastor encourages people to read the book of Philemon. Let God's word minister to you and transform your life. Father, I thank you, and I thank you for your perfect world. Help me hear your voice. Help me follow you and trust you in all things. You are my shepherd. You are my savior, my friend. You are my father. I belong to you, and nothing can take me out of your will for my life. Okay, so thank you for your goodness towards me in all things. So that is where the post ends. It's incredible. I shared it on my social media. You guys can go read it. It just grew my faith today. I was like, wow, I have been kind of thinking about this, like, go back to where you came from. They're going to the darkest places of the world. God's not there. God's for me. And I've kind of been hoarding God and thinking that God is only here in America and only does good things here in America. And that's why everybody wants to come here. And I'm kind of hoarding him to myself. But I've got a totally messed up outlook, right? And I have to repent and pray about that. But now I'm starting to see that, hey, the Somalian who's going to be deported, in order for that Somalian to be in the will of God, you've got to follow the law, and you have to enter into this impossible situation. But a lot of them won't because they don't have Jesus. So I'm praying that maybe this shift to Tom Homan, and where Kristi Noem is kind of taking a back seat, Bavino is taking a back seat, the face of the mass deportation operations. In this shift, I'm praying that Tom Homan kind of uses their position here to encourage the Somali, because they're kind of in a fantastic position to witness and tell these illegal immigrants about Jesus and encourage them to go back home. And, as they're carrying out these deportations, say, hey, we're enforcing the law here, but we want you to go back home. And I know it feels like an impossible situation and that you can't make it there, but you can make it with God. Let me tell you about Jesus. Once you forfeit your life over to him, you can do all things through him. So maybe ICE, the federal government, they will use their position to convert souls and to encourage them to go to these dark places of the world and to be a light in these dark places. So really opened up my faith, my eyes today. I hope it did the same for you. Let's get to some of the news today. I did something a little bit different this morning. Wanted to make sure I got to filming. Good morning, Lisa. So great to see you. We are going to be getting to Ilhan Omar here and what substance was splashed on her. I think that it was a staged town hall event. And I'm going to go frame by frame. And I think that you're going to agree with me by the end of the program today. But Alex Pretti, let's start with him. He reportedly suffered a broken rib about a week ago before his fatal shooting when federal agents tackled him after he had tried to intervene with immigration enforcement operation. Right. And I don't know what the federal agents were doing there. I am speculating perhaps the operation that the reason why Border Patrol was there was because they were maybe carrying out an operation associated with the address where this guy died. Alex Pretti died. This address, very fascinating. Was there Somalian fraud going on? Somalian fraudsters operating inside of this building, multiple businesses in an 1,100 square foot building. Makes you scratch your head. Was he interfering with that operation? Alex Pretti, I don't know. We know that he intervened when it came to them pepper spraying. There were about 50 people deployed to this area through a signal chat. Yesterday's show breaks down the signal chat, a very simple way for you to understand. There's just politicians, journalists who are administrators. There's agitators who have designated positions, dispatch, license plate reader, and they track and target ICE. How they knew to show up to this operation and to this address. Is there a politician on the inside getting insider information about federal investigations and operations to take down Somalian fraud and their treasonous and throwing those addresses and information about the operation into these group chats and weaponizing agitators? It's paid for. 4,000 plus donors are behind these ICE watch groups, including foreigners, billionaires, foreign billionaires like George Soros. So this is well funded and well organized. Okay. And that's how Alex Pretti was there. It was a plan for him to be there. It was like him getting beat up, broken rib about a week ago, or about a week before his fatal shooting. That was probably planned. He's an agitator. This is what they do. They respond to where ICE is at and where they're conducting their operations, and then they interfere. Okay, so sources tell CNN that Pretti had stopped his car after spotting ICE chasing a family on foot. So let's be real. His car just happened to be right where the ICE agents were, where they were chasing this family on foot. His car just didn't happen to be there or just didn't happen to stop. Okay, likely Alex Pretti, we know, was in the signal chats. This was another incident where he was called out to interfere and intervene in this operation of the deportation of this family. So the ICE agents were chasing this family on foot. And this is part of the ICE Watch group tactics or training, blowing a whistle This is really weird because there's in public schools, and people have sent this to me, they're telling children to blow a whistle if they see ice in the school. And I've looked at some of these virtual trainings. I haven't actually infiltrated one. I've got to figure out how to do that, where you can actually attend these virtual trainings and they train you up into a militant, really. But I do know that part of the training is how to blow a whistle when you spot ice. So he's shouting, he's blowing a whistle, and he's trying to interfere with this deportation of this family that ICE is chasing down on foot. Okay, so they say this action prompted agents to take him down. The whistling and the blowing of the whistle. So the blowing of the whistle signals to other militants to come to where you are and to interfere. Okay, the whistle is a call to all of the other agitators, by the way. Okay, so that is probably why they took him down, because these ICE agents know what's going on. So Pretti, he told one source that 5 agents tackled him. One leaned in on his back, and that encounter left him with a broken rib. So he told a source that day he thought he was going to die. Yeah, broken rib sucks. CNN reports that medical records show he was treated for a broken rib. Take a listen. Here we go.
That Alex Pretti had a physical encounter with federal agents about a week before he was shot and killed by law enforcement. Sources tell CNN that Pretti broke a rib when a group of federal officers tackled him while he was protesting. Priscilla Alvarez is breaking that story for us. What else are you hearing, Priscilla?
Dana, we're learning more details along with my colleague Jeff Winter about what exactly transpired a week before Alex Pretti was shot in Minneapolis and died this past weekend. Now, in this earlier incident, he stopped his car after observing ICE agents chasing what he described as a family on foot and began shouting and blowing his whistle. Pretti later told one of these sources that 5 agents tackled him and one leaned on his back, appearing to leave him with a broken rib. According to this source, and I'm quoting here, that source said, quote, that day he thought he was going to die. Now, Pretti was later given medication that is consistent with treating a broken rib, according to records reviewed by CNN. Sources also say that he was known to federal law enforcement, though it's unclear whether it was this incident or another with federal agents that they knew of him. It's also unclear whether the officers who tackled him on Saturday knew who he was. What we do know, however, is that federal immigration officers have been collecting personal information of protesters and agitators.
Okay, so you heard it there, CNN. The usual suspects. They framed this report as an indicator as to how ICE is tracking protesters, and they are taking down protesters aggressively and handling these agitators very aggressively. Okay, and they framed this as, oh, this is really aggressive. Pretti's previous encounter is another reflection of the aggressive approach federal agents are taking with observers and protesters. Okay, he wasn't observing, he was blowing a whistle. This is a militant tactic where he's trying to get other militants to respond to the operation and to impede that operation of deporting the family and chasing the family. The family, I don't know, it was probably like 4 Mexican adult males. I don't know. But that's what they wrote. CNN said the previous encounter is another reflection of the aggressive approach federal agents are taking with these observers and protesters. Okay, they're militants, they're agitators. They were using military tactics, and they're using an apparatus that is well funded, an organization that is well funded, and it's funded by foreign adversaries. Okay, or foreign governments that are hostile to the United States. So, yeah, you're wrong, CNN. But what I think this indicates is that Pretti himself was a bit more aggressive than originally reported. Originally reported, he's just an ICU nurse, and he was trying to help a woman who was pepper sprayed, and he's a really gentle guy. Look, if you thought you were going to die, okay, and then you decide to go back out there within days and intervene again in further operations, like, and this time you brought a gun, signaling your intent to aggressively defend yourself against a perceived threat. Like, come on. This was not like some soft guy. Okay. He clearly, I mean, his motive to bringing the gun that day changes. Did he bring the gun for defense? Was he actually carrying the gun for defense? Or was he carrying the gun because he was pissed that they broke his rib the last time he interfered with an operation? So News Nation host Katie Pevlich echoes, what I'm saying. She says, this on X, this changes a lot, including his intention to carry the gun into a confrontation with federal law enforcement. Okay, she said on X, lawful concealed carry holders do their best to walk away from a fight, not to walk into one. Right. It is about self-defense, the Second Amendment. Okay, that's our God-given right. Concealed carry holders take that very seriously. And if you can walk away from a fight, better than agitating when you are holding a gun and concealed carrying a gun. You have to act like it, right? And that's responsible gun ownership. And he has a pattern here of impeding federal operations. He has a pattern of impeding, and this was not like him being taken down for blowing a whistle. Okay, that he was being taken down. I'm sure these federal agents are well aware and have been briefed that when they hear a whistle, that means an ambush. Okay, his car was not randomly there that day. Okay, there's a signal chat out there. They're coordinating. They're getting insider info about where these operations are obviously taking place. These agitators, whether from elected officials, politicians, I don't know where they're getting this insider information, how they're finding and tracking and targeting ICE. But there's obviously somebody who's getting details about these operations and then taking them to the signal chat and then deploying militants to those operations to impede those operations. So he didn't accidentally get involved. On Saturday, he had a history of confrontation. He has a history of inserting himself in these situations. It's not even inserted. He was deployed, okay, like a militant to these operations in order to stop them. Okay. And, this is really dumb. Like, it's dumb of you. Like, you upped the ante here. Okay. They already broke your rib the last time. You upped the ante. You started carrying a gun, and you went to this location carrying a gun. If this report is confirmed that he did in fact break a rib, it raises a question as to the intent of why he was carrying. Was he solely carrying out of self-defense, or did he carry and bring the gun and then confront officers, planning to escalate a confrontation from the previous time? Last time he brought a whistle. This time he brought a gun. So this is not like he was the de-escalator or the he escalated the situation by bringing a gun the next time around. So whether he was brandishing it or not, whether he showed the officers or not his gun, just bringing a gun. And I'm pro Second Amendment. And it's not even really the gun, that is concerned. It's what he did while holding the gun. He resisted arrest. He was being arrested for obstruction, and he was resisting arrest, shoved officers, put his phone in their faces. Like, he was harassing these agents, assaulting them, or harassing these Border Patrol agents and harassing them. And then they tackled him, and whether he brandished the firearm at that point or not, it was made aware that he had a gun. An officer shouted, "Gun." And then we can see in the video that somebody takes the gun off his person. And I believe, and I'm thinking that the DHS is going to confirm this eventually, they're investigating this, that the gun went off. These guns are notorious. And I think it's so funny, the Second Amendment guys, they're like, yeah, this guy had a dope gun. Yeah, he had like a little laser pointer on it. I don't know a ton about guns, but at the end of the day, a lot of people in the gun community, they got rid of SIGs, this SIG P320, because they're notorious for going off if you drop them. They're like, yeah, his gun was so sick. I know he was a Second Amendment guy. So he's like in my camp, you know? And I'm like, shut up. Okay. You're impeding operations. You're resisting arrest. You're carrying a firearm. You are not a law-abiding gun owner. Okay. And we don't claim you. Okay. It's kind of like claiming the gangsters in Chicago who, you know, are like, yeah, I'm going to pop you, you know, as Second Amendment guys. Like, no, you know what I mean? You're not a Second Amendment guy. You have to be a responsible gun owner and understand that the Second Amendment is not about gunning people or not about being confrontational and being offensive. It's about self-defense. So that's what the Second Amendment is about, because we believe that life is inherently valuable and that we are made in the image of God, and that's worth defending our lives. So yeah, the offensive is the antithesis to what the Second Amendment is all about. We don't want to hurt people because we value life so much. So like these Second Amendment guys, they're like, yeah, his gun's so sick, because it was kind of kitted out and it was like a $2,000 carry, concealed carry. And like these guys are like, yeah, he was a Second Amendment guy. He would have been in my camp. Look, clearly the guy didn't even know that this like SIG, and I didn't know because I'm not really like into that. I just kind of like the big boomsticks, the 12 gauge shotgun. I got it right here behind me. I like as big. If they make a big boom, I'm cool with it. That's kind of where I'm at with guns, and I just kind of use whatever makes it, the loudest sound out on the range. But this guy, he didn't even know that these guys, that this that's kind of a thing in the gun community, I guess. They know that the SIGs go off. Anyway, gun was shouted, gun was taken off his person. And this might be confirmed by the DHS later this week. The gun goes off accidentally because it's a SIG. And then that prompts two federal officers here, Border Patrol, to fire. And they shoot, I think, like 10 times and bring the guy down. Okay. And that is a reasonable perception of deadly force, by the way. You rely on your fellow officers' perception of the event, because they can see things you can't. And these officers were relying on their fellow officers' word, and they reasonably perceived that they were going to die and that deadly force was being used against them. So they used defensive deadly force in that situation, and that would be justified. Definitely. But anyway, CNN's effort here to frame this as, aggressive, and this is repeat aggression towards protesters, or they're tracking protesters, and that this is something omnibus, like where this is like a pattern and they are tracking protesters. So they're trying to frame it as if it's like they're the ones seeking out the protesters and trying to hurt these protesters. And that's just ridiculous. Listen to what CNN has to write here. Federal immigration officers have been collecting personal information about protesters and agitators in Minneapolis. Sources told CNN they had documented details about Alex Pretti before he was shot to death on Saturday. So you see how they're framing this. They're trying to No, Alex Pretty showed up, and here's why CNN is doing this, because, oh crap, the Signal chat got leaked. It proves that Alex Pretty was directed to go to that address and to stop an operation. Okay, so that is no longer like defense. That is no longer like just an innocent bystander. That throws out the narrative completely that this was an innocent guy. He went there to stop an operation, and the Signal chat indicates that. Okay, 50 other people showed up, other militants showed up to that operation to stop it. And what they're trying to do here, they're trying to say that somehow they tracked Alex Pretty at that location because a week ago they collected all kinds of information on him when they broke his rib. No. Okay. DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McClellan points out that it's really common. It's a common practice for law enforcement when they encounter a violent agitator who's breaking the law, obstructing law enforcement, assaulting them. It's really common for law enforcement to make a note of that and to preserve a record, okay, to advance prosecution. It's kind of like standard protocol, right? So they weren't tracking Alex Pretty to this location. He showed up to their location. Like I said, I don't know if they were conducting an operation at that address that has like a whole host of businesses associated with it, even though it's 1,100 square feet. Like, it's a 2-bedroom house, and apparently there were 184 nurse or practitioner or national provider identifier numbers. So nurses, practitioners, doctors registered to work out of that address. Don't know if that was the operation that they were kind of looking into, but either way, whatever reason ICE was there was, like, they sent that address in the chat. They knew that ICE was going to be there. How they knew, I don't know. But the administrators, who are largely made up of elected officials, and we kind of went one by one, who we know in the Signal chat is an elected official in Minnesota or a politician, and who we can kind of presume are in these chats as administrators who are elected officials, politicians. They throw those addresses out there, and they get militants to kind of respond to those addresses. So unclear at this point if the agent, part of the Border Patrol Tactical Unit, involved in the Pretty altercation, was aware of who he was, okay, or of the previous confrontation. My guess is not. Okay. The guy was also wearing sunglasses, a hat, had his coat kind of pulled up. Like, I doubt that these Border Patrol agents, this tactical unit, even if they were like a part of this altercation or involved in that altercation with Pretty the week before, then I doubt that they'd recognize him now, a week later, and in like straight up like disguised gear. Okay. Gear designed to disguise him. He had a hat, sunglasses on. ICE agents, I don't know if they were aware of that confrontation the week before. We don't know that. Hopefully an investigation is going to look at all of this information. I hope that they look at the Signal chat, or try to recover the deleted message. As I told you, Signal chat is kind of an encrypted messaging. So the chats are deleted from the day before, and they start each day with a new chat, and they're divided by district. This is highly, highly sophisticated. And I hope that this investigation looks into all of that, because I don't know, him carrying the gun, we have to question that intention. Why did he have the gun? He had a confrontation a week ago, and that week, he brought a whistle, but then he upped the ante a little bit and escalated the situation, brought a gun. Did he really bring it in defense, or did he bring it to avenge his broken rib? Or we've got to look at, the address. Alex Pretty was deployed to this address as a member of ICE Watch Group in a Signal chat. We have to look at that. There's so much we should look at when investigating. Definitely the SIG going off. But even if it didn't go off, let's be clear, accidentally, the fact that the officer shouted gun, even if he shouted gun, took the gun off his person, that is still, I think, a reasonable perception of deadly force and would have prompted a defensive deadly force from the two agents or to Border Patrol to fire and to take him out with defensive deadly force. So either way, even if there was no gun and the officer shouted gun, okay, and it wasn't a gun, it was like a cell phone, the officers who killed him ultimately would have had a reasonable perception that they were in imminent danger of deadly force. Okay, so let's get to Ilhan. Okay, I am so excited for this story. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. Like they have time for that. Yes, so they can't, in this real-time situation and with Alex Pretti, and there's a gun there, and you can't verify, all these officers are seeing different angles of this guy. Okay, they just know he's a resisting arrest, and then this guy knows, hey, I see his gun. He shouts the word gun. These officers over here who might not see the gun, okay, they're not obligated to confirm that before shooting. Okay, or before defending themselves with deadly force, because it's called reasonable perception. If it's reasonable and relying on your fellow officers' perceptions and relying on your fellow officers' testimony, that is reasonable. Okay, so I think that the shooting is ultimately going to be deemed justified 100%. Anyway, look at this thing. Right, let's start with this news in Minneapolis with Ilhan Omar, because this is funny. So this happened yesterday. She was speaking at a town hall event, and a man approached her and appeared to spray her with an unknown substance. Let me take a sip of water here. Good stuff. Make sure you hydrate. Where are my hydro homies? Throw it in the chat. How much do you love water? So Ilhan Omar, this guy approaches her and he sprayed her with an unknown substance. We still don't know. Somebody threw it in the chat that it was pig urine. Fascinating. I'll have to look into that. I don't know. I haven't seen that yet. But it's an unknown substance. It smelled like vinegar. It was like a yellowish brown color. So maybe pig urine. Yellowish brown, clear, looked like urine. So I wouldn't doubt maybe it was pig urine. Who knows? But it was an unknown substance, and he points at her and he yells at her. Okay, at this town hall event. And I'm going to play two separate angles here. Let's take a look at the first angle. Here we go.
HHS Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment.
You're not resigning.
I don't know.
Oh my God. Oh my God, he sprayed something on her.
I need a napkin to know nothing.
No, we'll go.
No, we will continue.
No. Ilhan, you need to go get checked. No,
We will continue this. We're not going to get away with
need
it.
to go get checked. No, I don't know what.
Okay, that's angle number one. Okay, now angle number two. Check this out.
Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment.
You're not resigning.
Fucking asshole. I don't know.
Oh my God. Oh my God, he sprayed something on her.
I need a napkin to know nothing.
No, we'll go.
No, we will continue.
No. Ilhan, you need to go get checked. No.
We will continue. These fucking assholes are not going to get away with
You
it.
need to go get checked. No, you don't know what.
Okay, I'm going to replay this because I want to take a look in the background. Okay, let's look at the security guy. I want to see if he reacts just a hair too soon. Help me, guys. Let's watch this.
Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment.
Resigning.
Asshole. I don't know.
Oh my God.
Okay, I can't quite see. He's behind that like wall, but it's almost like he like purposefully, I don't know, maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist or tinfoil hat wearer, but it's almost like he like was like side-eyeing the whole time waiting for that guy to make his move. We're gonna get to a couple of other angles and a couple of other clips, but let's break this down. Okay, so Ilhan Omar, at the time of the attack, she was saying that Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment. The crowd applauded, and then the guy started to approach her. He was sitting in the front row, okay, and he's holding something in his right hand, and he sprays this unknown substance on her. Somebody in the chat suggested it was pig urine. Sorry, not funny. Okay. Anyway, he appears to have sprayed this on her arm and on her chest. Okay, did not get her face. Okay. He's yelling and he says something pretty unintelligible. I don't know what exactly he said. I think he said, "You must resign," or, and then he gets tackled. He continues yelling and pointing at her. And at one point he backs away into the side. Okay, and we'll see this in another clip where he backs away from the podium and steps off to the side as if he's sort of waiting for the guy to grab him like this and throw him down. I'm assuming the guy that grabbed him is possibly Ilhan Omar's security, and he tackles him to the ground. Okay. Ilhan Omar advances towards the man and can be heard calling him an effing a-hole. She is cussing, and then the crowd is saying, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa." And then the woman in the crowd can be heard asking Ilhan Omar, "What did he spray you with?" And she goes, "I don't know." That's what Ilhan Omar says. Another man appears, who appears to be security, goes towards Ilhan and checks her out, and she goes, "I need a napkin." And then Ilhan insists on continuing the event, saying, "No, we're going to continue. These effing a-holes are not going to get away with us." Okay, so here's a C-SPAN clip. We're going to get to this clip. Another woman says, "It smells so bad." Okay, whatever was sprayed on her smells so bad, she needs to go get checked. When Ilhan Omar protests and says, "No, I'm not going to go get checked," that's what they want. The woman says, "It's not really about him. It's about you and your safety, Ilhan." Okay, so let's take a look at the C-SPAN clip. Here we go.
Of the agency. ICE cannot be reformed. It cannot be rehabilitated. We must abolish ICE for good. And DHS Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment.
Resigning.
Asshole. I don't know.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. He's spraying.
I need a napkin to know nothing. No, we will continue.
No. Ilhan, you need to go get checked. No,
We will continue. These fucking assholes are not going to get away
you
with
need
it.
to go get checked. No, you don't know what. No. That's whatever it is smells so bad. She needs to go get checked. I don't know
That's
what that
that's
was.
what they want. Please don't let them know.
It's not about him, Ilhan. Ilhan, it's not about him.
Please.
It's about your safety. No, he sprayed something on you. You need to go get checked. Yeah, and it smells terrible.
We're gonna keep talking. Just give me 10 minutes. Just give me 10 minutes. I beg you. Please don't let them have the show. 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 Here is the reality that people like this ugly man don't understand. We are Minnesota strong, and we will stay resilient in the face of whatever they might throw at us. Everybody settle down. I'm going to finish my remarks. It is important for me to continue to lead my Democratic colleagues in demanding her resignation.
Yeah, I've seen better acting in a high school drama, junior high drama class. Yeah, this one is particularly bad, this clip. Oh, man, I am like crying in laughter. This is hilarious. It's so cringy. Wow. She like looks down at her notes too. So it's almost like those remarks after the spraying happened were prepared. Whew, that is hilarious. That is funny. And they're all a bunch of theater kids, so leave it up to a bunch of theater kids to nerdy theater kids that didn't have a seat at the lunch table and they had to go eat lunch in the library. Leave it up to them to pull off something like this. Okay, so she gets back up to the microphone and it appears that she's reading off of her notes. Okay, so like I mean, like, how do you prepare these comments if you didn't know that was going to happen anyway? Here's what she said. She says, here's the reality that people like this ugly man don't understand. We are Minnesota strong. We will stay resilient in the face of whatever they might throw at us. Like, God, like, that is just so scripted. Whatever they might throw at us. Whatever they might throw at us. Like, how do you come up with that on the spot, especially after having like something smelly thrown on you as a woman? Like, and then your initial reaction is to go and fight this guy, like coming from another woman. Like, at the end of the day, she's a woman, right? And biologically, it's very hard not to get skeeved out by smelly things. It's very hard not to. I don't know who all was in on it. If the woman was in on it, it didn't sound like she was. She goes, you need to go get checked. Maybe she wasn't in on it. But maybe she was. I don't know. Your initial reaction is not to go attack that person. Okay. She went to go fight this guy. Everybody settle down. I'm going to finish my remarks, she says. It is important for me to continue to lead my Democrat colleagues in demanding her resignation. Like, even the script afterwards, like, it's important for me to continue to lead my Democrat colleagues in demanding her resignation. It's scripted. Like, and she looked down at her notes. The man was hustled out of the room as she was making those kind of last remarks. So the guy has been booked in Hennepin County Jail for third-degree assault. Ilhan Omar is not injured, according to police, and was not injured, according to police. The guy was holding a syringe. Again, weird. It had like a yellowish white liquid inside, and it had a strong smell to it, like almost like vinegar, and it was nasty smell. I think it was 100% staged. I do. She's currently under investigation. I think that this is totally staged. I think it's pure deflection from the investigation. There is a camera guy in the back. I think you can see it in the C-SPAN video the best.
Of the agency.
Let me see here. There's a camera guy in the back, and he's kind of got like the perfect shot And he's like filming Ilhan from the back when this all kind of happens. So I think that this, I mean, junior high, somebody said it, I've seen junior high drama classes better than this. I would love to see an immediate investigation into this. I want to know if Ilhan Omar staged this spraying of her body at the town hall that night to distract from these new reports that have come out over her marriage fraud. She's in her second marriage. There was an initial marriage with her brother. There's some shady things, new reports about that. And she's accumulated $300 million worth of wealth on a $180,000 a year per salary. So that's being investigated. And yes, it looks very staged. I wouldn't be surprised if Ilhan and, the people there, they're all theater kids. I wouldn't be surprised if they set this up so she could cry victim as President Donald Trump attempts to expose her through Congress and through the DOJ, who are investigating her and her current husband. I'll get to some things that we already know, like have been proven. Look, if not outright illegal, should be outright illegal. She funneled campaign dollars. She was the largest contributor to this consulting firm. Her campaign was the consulting firm that her husband owns. Okay, $2.9 million funneled into that. And then since then, he's like accumulated all kinds of wealth through these various companies. So I want to get to this. The camera. So I told you that there was a camera guy in behind Ilhan Omar. And the camera guy, right before she went up to the podium, perfectly got a shot of the guy that sprayed this substance on her through the syringe. Take a
round
look.
of applause for Congresswoman Omar's staff who's here. Hi, everyone. I'm Hennepin.
Okay. So right there, you guys can see.
And round of
like, why that guy? The camera guy who's doing this town hall on, I think this is like C-SPAN, zooms in on this guy, right? And has a perfect shot of this guy right before she goes up to the podium. And then check this out.
Resign or face impeachment.
Okay, now watch it carefully. She gave this guy a go-ahead, almost like a go-ahead nod before he stood up. Now watch it. Hold on.
Must resign or face impeachment.
Right there. Did you see that? One more time. We're going to back this up just a little bit.
Impeachment.
Right there. Did you see? She gave him like a nod, like a go-ahead nod. So I've always wondered this. I don't know if you've ever pondered this. How come politicians, their wealth grows so fast once they get into Congress? Okay, they have a fairly modest, 180,000, that's way too much in my opinion, but whatever, somewhat modest congressional salary. Okay. And then before you know it, they're like millionaires. Okay. And before we are too shocked or fake our amazement here, before we fake too much amazement, we have to understand that, yeah, of course, it's probably some kind of shady dealings going on. Okay, I think that we can all kind of come to an understanding that Congress does shady stuff. Which brings me to Democrat Representative Ilhan Omar. Now, in 2025, I did a big podcast on Ilhan Omar and her now husband, not her brother husband, her now husband, and how her husband has rose to extreme wealth. Okay, there was a rapid rise to wealth here. And it's truly something amazing to behold, because Ilhan Omar arrived to the United States as a refugee. And she says that she had barely a nickel to her name, right? She says, I come from really, modest means, okay? And she was a refugee, but now she's enjoying the lifestyles of the rich and famous. And it's kind of remarkable how leftist politicians like Ilhan Omar, they constantly are talking about how to tax the rich and smash capitalism and break up the fortune of millionaires until they become one. Smash up the fortune, break up the fortunes of the millionaires and billionaires. But they go out there and then they quietly get rich, mysteriously get rich. Ilhan Omar is a parasite. She's never contributed anything but hot air, and she's got no ideas. And she just contributes hot air and nothingness. And suddenly, we have the House Oversight Committee, and I've been calling for this for years now. Ilhan Omar, her husband, in 2025, I've done several podcasts about her husband and wealth, and specifically today, I'm going to be talking about his consulting firm and her campaign, because that directly connects her. Although she is his wife, so I mean, their finances, that's how things work here in America. If you're married, I mean, his finances are your finances, despite what Ilhan Omar might try to tell you. Now we've got the House Oversight Committee in 2026. I guess the new sheriff is in town, as the saying goes. And they have, Ilhan Omar has gotten the attention of the House Oversight Committee. And they are looking into her family wealth, of course. And I say $100 billion because this stretches back to 2015, the Somalian fraud. And we've talked about Ilhan Omar and her connections to specifically two Somalian fraudsters who have been convicted. They, through this nonprofit, Feeding Our Future, they had spiff sort of nonprofit organizations that stemmed out of this, and they were supposed to be providing food for children or services for children in exchange for taxpayer money. So there was a big lump sum given to this daddy nonprofit, Feeding Our Future, and then all these various little nonprofits were supposed to be getting some of that taxpayer money, and they did. And two of these immigrants, Somalian immigrants, were operating these, and one of them actually hosted Ilhan Omar at his restaurant for a campaign stop, for a campaign. I think she actually won. It was like a victory party or something, but she has connections to both these people. So yeah, they're investigating Ilhan Omar and her family's skyrocketing wealth after what they're calling $9 billion. I would say it's probably more than that because this stretches back to 2015. $9 billion of Somalian social services fraud. This has been a scandal in her district. So the oversight panel chairman, James Comer, Republican from Kentucky, said staff lawyers are exploring this extraordinary step of subpoenaing Ilhan Omar's spouse over his alleged shady business practices. Okay. So this is what Comer said. He says, we're going to get answers through the ethics committee or the oversight committee, one of the two. And then we should note that it's the Congresswoman's husband, Tim Minette, who officially made most of this money. But from where? Okay, that's where we want to know, or that's what we want to know. So Republicans want to know how Somali-born Ilhan Omar and her politically connected husband, Tim Minette, went from nearly broke to being worth $30 million in just a year. Okay, this happened in just a year. And he goes on, Comer says, there's lots of questions as to how her husband accumulated so much wealth over the past 2 years. It's not possible. I'm a money guy. It's just not possible. It is possible to do it illegally, right? There are many ways to accumulate money that quickly if one is politically connected, and Tim Minette is politically connected, and he has, sources perhaps outside of just Ilhan Omar. Is politically connected to people outside of Ilhan Omar, but Federal law enforcement is also probing. They're investigating all the politicians potentially connected to the fraud, the $9 billion in Somalian fraud, where they were taking taxpayer money and supposed to be providing services to the taxpayers, but weren't doing that through these various nonprofits. That is a separate incident or a separate investigation. So the federal law enforcement is investigating Ilhan's possible connection to the 9 billion Somalian fraud, but there's also another investigation going on with Tim Minette, her husband, and how they accumulated that wealth, and if Ilhan Omar's political connections helped him gain, I think from 2022 to 2024, like $42 in his bank account to $30 million. Okay, so unlike the Biden administration, they didn't take action. Team Trump is on top of it, says a source in the New York Post. The Biden administration, of course, they didn't take any action. I would argue that even Trump 1.0 didn't take any action. This was in 2015, this Somalian fraud. He had an entire term to kind of look into this, and nothing was done. But the Biden administration definitely didn't look into something very blatant about Ilhan Omar and her husband, Tim Minette. She is the Omar campaign was the largest contributor to this consulting firm. And I don't know if that's like completely illegal, but it's definitely a loophole and definitely should have gone before the ethics committee while she was, while Biden was in office under the Biden Congress. But nothing ever really happened under the Biden administration. Okay. We were lucky if good old Joe made it to his afternoon pudding cup. Okay. So I'm not shocked that we didn't see any action. I'm more shocked that Trump didn't take any more action because the Somali fraud has been going on for a decade. Okay. There have been convictions in this already. Couple of those convictions, those Somali immigrants I talked about who have ties to the Ilhan Omar campaign. One of the guys even hosted her campaign for a victory party at his restaurant. Okay, so there's a new sheriff in town. Trump 2.0 is very different from Trump 1.0, where Trump 2.0 doesn't give a hoot. He's going to go in and he's going to launch these investigations. I hope something actually real comes out of it, real consequences, because I see this all the time. You get the House Oversight Committee, you get the Ethics Committee. There's usually a back and forth, but there's no real consequences. What I want to see happen is Ilhan Omar expelled from the House of Representatives. I want to see her citizenship revoked. I want to see her deported back to Somalia. And I don't think I'm going to see that all too often with these House Committee Oversight hearings and Ethics Committee hearings. It's just a way for press releases to get out there and clips for these congressmen to get reelected. So I'm hoping for real consequences. This case might be different because I think that there is enough here to definitely say she violated ethics, maybe enough to expel her from the House. So let's start with Tim Minette and what we know, okay, about Tim Minette and why this investigation is kind of being launched into their sudden wealth. Okay, so investment firm Rose Lake Capital, formed by Minette and partner Will Haler in 2022, is part of a web of companies that Minette has, okay, created by this Ilhan Omar's husband, this squad member's husband, of 5 years. Okay, she's been married to this guy 5 years. Prior to that, there was a brother marriage, but we're not going to get into that. There's possible marriage fraud. I think that's going to go before the House Oversight Committee as well. There to get her brother into the country. Okay, cousin marriage is very popular in Somalia. By the way, 60% of marriages are incestual marriages. So yeah, that's why their IQ is probably like 68 or something like that, 65. Average IQ here in America is 98. Just so that way you can compare. Anyway, Rose Lake Capital. This is an investment firm. Investment firm of Minette's. Okay, Tim Minette, her husband of 5 years. Now they had a measly, meager $42.44 in its bank account in 2022, according to court documents. Court documents that were revealed in a lawsuit against a related company. This lawsuit was filed in South Dakota. So we knew how much was in this bank account. In 2022, it was $42. Okay. Yet the firm, their value skyrocketed. And according to Omar's filing, Ilhan Omar's 2024 filing, okay, it rose to 25 million in just a year. Okay, 2022, 2024, a year-ish. Okay. So practically from 0 to 25 million in just a year. This firm, its value. People are perplexed by this. Obviously, there's questions on where did that money come from, and from 42 to 25 million in a year. That is like Pelosian level, Nancy Pelosian level craziness. Okay. The Oversight Committee, the Justice Department, they're supposed to be getting to the bottom of this. These are unprecedented gains. And I don't know how they did it. There's speculation that, it's kind of the same sort of deal with the activities we've seen in the Minneapolis area, often associated with the Somalian community there. And I think that, if there's something found here on how they accumulated that, charges have to be filed. Now, that's interesting. And that's kind of all we know at this point. $42 to 25 million in a year. That's weird. Should be investigated. But we also know something about Ilhan Omar and her husband, Tim Minette, that is truth and definitely, if not illegal, a loophole in the law that needs to be closed. So Ilhan, she, back in September 2025, and I did a show on this, she called on conservative critics, who were like saying, how have you accumulated all this wealth? She said, okay, comb through my public financial disclosures. And we found out, hey, you've really accumulated a lot of wealth. Watchdogs critics, they did look into Ilhan Omar, and she reported a net worth that had jumped into the millions, and it's all tied to her husband's businesses. She tried to downplay the findings, the spike in wealth, by saying things like, oh, it's my husband's money, not mine. But it is kind of your money, because I don't know how things work in Somalia, but here in America, if you're married to someone, it's kind of how marriage works, right? It is your money. You're privy to the cash your husband makes, clearly, because you live these lavish lives. You live a lavish lifestyle, Ilhan. Okay. So, what we can prove, and this was reported back in September of 2025, one of the company's biggest benefactors, one of her husband's company's biggest benefactors, is the Ilhan Omar campaign. Now, I've talked about this multiple times in the past, like I said, but the last number that I've got here, it looks like 2.9 million was funneled by Ilhan Omar's campaign into the consulting firm. Okay. His company, the consulting firm. So she went from having an affair with him to marrying him. And then suddenly that gave him access to all of that Ilhan Omar campaign cash. Okay. And that gave her access to all of that money. Like, this is really weird. He got that big cash infusion from the Omar campaign, and suddenly he left the consulting business and started a variety of other businesses, like the investment firm. So, and those have made millions. And, that alone, I don't know if it's illegal because campaigns do that. They hire consulting firms. But if she knew that she was going to marry him, the timeline here, she knew that she was going to get that money. So, through him, through his consulting firm, like, it's kind of absurd to me that we can hang 34 felony accounts on a president for what really amounted to an argument over a QuickBooks entry. Okay, it was a paperwork thing that was traditionally charged as a misdemeanor until, President Donald Trump was charged with this. He can get charged with 34 felonies, but obviously, we have campaign finance laws. Either the law is fine, and I don't know, I'm not a lawyer. Either the law is fine with House representatives enriching their families with campaign donations as an obvious way to funnel the money back to themselves. Or it's a serious loophole in the law that we kind of have to address. That's what I'm seeing here. That alone, the hiring of her husband's consulting firm just to enrich herself and get that money to come back to herself, which is like a big no-no. And I'm pretty sure campaign finance law discusses that kind of stuff. But I don't know if it's against the law. And if it isn't, that is a big loophole. And they need to close that. Anyway, smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe to the channel. I would love for you to subscribe. We are going to get to some of your comments here at the end. I do want to talk about this K through 12 public education system, and how willfully they are indoctrinating. That they are so serious about indoctrinating your kids. It's not even funny. And it's almost worse, I would say, than higher education, because at least those in higher education are adults. And it's okay kind of to indoctrinate them. And not really okay, but it's like better than indoctrinating young children. Sorry, my hydro homies, I needed to drink some water. Didn't want to take a break because I just want to plow right through the story. Higher education institutions, K through 12 public education, they're really not all that different in that they both indoctrinate impressionable students, except in higher ed, you've got kids who are adults. In elementary school, junior high, high school, these are kids. And it almost makes it worse. It's very insidious, and it's disgusting that they're indoctrinating children that small. Okay. So amid the immigration enforcement operations in blue cities like Minneapolis and Chicago, there has been an insane amount of backlash from professional agitators, militants, and they have been fighting back or fighting operations being conducted using a sophisticated network with professional agitators who are trained and who are paid. Okay. That is what has been going on in these blue cities in states like Minnesota, Illinois. But there are also networks in high schools. So high school students have been staging walkouts. People have sent me actually pictures of things hanging on the wall, like whistle if you see ICE agents. It's interesting because we've just found out today that Alex Pretti had a whistle at the last confrontation he had with ICE where he broke a rib, not Saturday, but a week prior to Saturday. So there's networks within high schools, and high school students have been planning walkouts. And outwardly, I think that, with the high school students, it's outwardly a show of solidarity, and like they're trying to, show they stand up against ICE, and they stand for their immigrant community. Some of these kids, the ones that aren't affiliated with these sophisticated networks, I would say most of them probably who are doing these walkouts are really just doing so to get out of class. But in Chicago, we see something kind of different. Okay, there's a protest and it's related to ICE, in public schools, but it stems from a social media post of two simple words: go ICE. Okay, so this elementary school teacher posted on social media, on a social media account, about ICE, and it was just two words on the social media account. The offensive words, go ICE. Now, to me, I think that you can interpret that in two different ways, like go ICE, get out of here, we don't want you here, or go ICE, I'm rooting for you. So members of the Hispanic community and Democrats, of course, they got really upset with this elementary school teacher who posted these two words on the social media app, okay? Social media account. And now they're protesting the teacher who posted this. Okay, they've been protesting the high school students. They're indoctrinated. The networks have infiltrated the high schools and gotten kids to walk out, gotten kids to blow whistles when they see ICE. So the Go ICE, this teacher is at West Chicago Gary Elementary School. He posted to Facebook. Shortly after the post was made, activists in predominantly the Hispanic community quickly began sharing the post and calling for action to be taken against the teacher. Now, I don't know what the teacher's name is. Fox News Digital isn't naming names due to safety concerns. Obviously, the teacher is probably in some danger, which I don't know why, because I feel like go ICE could be interpreted several different ways. And I almost find it hard to believe that a teacher in West Chicago, in this West Chicago elementary school, I almost find it hard to believe that there's a teacher in that school district that would post something in favor of ICE or in promotion of ICE. I wouldn't doubt that the go ICE thing was intended for like get out of here ICE. Okay. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, imagine working as a teacher in an elementary school in West Chicago where the Latino community is highly populated. This is what somebody wrote on social media in response to the go ICE comment. And promoting ICE. This is sick AF. This is sick as F. Okay, so people are responding to this teacher and they're saying, like, you're sick. How could you do that? I can't imagine really a teacher doing this in West Chicago in this elementary school, which is why I think that the interpretation of the post is wrong. I wouldn't doubt that this teacher was actually on their side and they're like eating their own here. I wouldn't doubt that for a second. But I don't know. Maybe he was actually, or she, the teacher, was promoting ICE in some sort of way. Another social media post said, they called this teacher an effing piece of poop. But they didn't use the word poop. Okay. So they went as far as to, over two words on social media, they went as far as to start circulating a petition. A change.org petition calling for the employee's job and for students to stay home from school in protest. Okay, so the petition, hey, let's fire this teacher because he put out two words. Hey, kids, you got to stay home and protest, saying that casually and publicly promoting the actions of ICE in our area is inappropriate and unsuitable for an educator. And they encourage students to sit and protest and stay home from school and protest because it's not a safe space anymore. Okay, so West Chicago Elementary School District 33 Superintendent Christina Davis said that the teacher initially resigned, but then withdrew that resignation. Now the teacher is on administrative leave pending an investigation. What are you going to investigate? Okay, the teacher put on social media, go ICE. Like, there's no really investigation to be done here. What are you investigating? What's the extent of this investigation into this teacher? Like, what are you trying to find out? Like, it was two words on social media. That's all you need to know. Like, so the superintendent said in a statement, the district learned of concerns regarding the disruptive social media comment made by the district employee on his personal account. So the statement tells us this is a male teacher. So the likelihood that this is promoting ICE has gone up a little bit, knowing that this guy is a guy. I missed that early this morning. I guess he is a guy. It's usually white, affluent females who do this projection onto immigrants and project their ideology onto immigrants, because it's hard for white affluent females to sit with the fact that some of these immigrants are coming from really, really dark places of the world, and they don't think like you do, lady, and they would kill you in a heartbeat. Some of these people who are coming from these very, very disturbed countries, and rather sit with that fact. They'd put their head in the sand and then they project their values onto these immigrants, but these immigrants don't hold those values. Anyway, the teacher initially submitted his resignation, but later that day he withdrew his resignation before the board had an opportunity to take action on his resignation that he had submitted and then later retracted. Okay, following a meeting with the district administration today, the employee involved has been placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of an investigation and will not be permitted on any district property while on leave. Wow. Local Democrat leaders have responded. Mayor Daniel Bovee, the city council of West Chicago, said that they were going to hold a listening session, a safe space. We're going to host a safe space and we're going to address the trauma that you guys have as teachers, as residents in the community, and the trauma of having to deal with a teacher who openly supported ICE on social media. We're going to hold a listening session, says the mayor. Wow. Gay. The district also addressed what it called the disruption of students, family, and staffs, and assured family that our schools are safe places. This is where it gets fascinating. Democrat State Senator Karina Villa, she supports abolishing ICE, by the way. She declared her unwavering solidarity for those who stood up against what she called pro-ICE statements. Okay, so I don't even know if this was a pro-ICE statement. And nobody knows if this was pro-ICE. I am willing to bet it was probably anti-ICE. And they're eating their own here. They're getting the horse way before the carriage. Okay, or what's the saying? The horse before the cart? I don't know. They're jumping the gun here a little bit. I think that this might not have been a pro-ICE statement. And if it was, who gives a hoot? It's 2 words. It's not a safe space. What do you mean? She called the pro-ICE statements that this teacher posted on social media, pro-ICE statement being 2 words. She said it creates a dangerous and harmful climate within our schools. Mm-hmm. Nice. Like, then they made a petition. They had a listening session. Like this, you people are insane. Okay, so fun fact. Okay, I've got to tell you this story. It's kind of a personal story, but it's still really funny. I have a friend. I didn't get permission to use their name, so I won't use their names or names of the story. So I have a friend. We went to high school together, and this friend, this friend and I, we were talking, and this liberal, now liberal, we went to high school with her. She's a now liberal. And, on Snapchat, like you have people from high school, you have people that you don't talk to. On Snapchat, I've got some, friends that I've never talked to after high school, but they turned out to be ultra lib, right? And this friend of mine, he's blue collar, working all day, bumps his phone all the time, butt dials people. It happens. Okay. So what happened was one of these libs that we went to high school with, my friend and I, posted a Snapchat story. And on Snapchat, you can kind of swipe up on stories and reply to them. And he had accidentally replied to this lib on Snapchat. Like it was totally a butt text. Okay. Hadn't talked to her in years, nothing. Like they weren't friends in high school. He just happened to have her on Snapchat. This liberal melted down. Okay. Because what he had texted, I think it was like an emoji or a question mark, and it slid up on her story. I don't know even what she posted, but She melted down and she goes, people from high school have just treated me so terribly and they have targeted me. And it's like, whoa, 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 like relax. And he says, hey, I just butt texted you. That was totally by accident. I didn't mean anything by it. And she just goes, I'm so glad to hear that. I'm just so disappointed. And so many people we went to high school with, they've targeted me. It's just like this victim mentality that's just so wild, like blowing it out of proportion. Like this story, they've got a petition circulating. They've got safe spaces, listening groups hosted by the mayor, the city council. They're using taxpayer dollars and facilities to do this nonsense. They're saying it's a safe space. You got a state senator out there saying that this is harmful. This two-word social media post is harmful to the climate of our schools. Like it's just wow. They have got to be very unstable people, or this is faux offended, fake offense. There's no way you're that offended by this. There's no way. And if you are, you need help mentally. So my friend, to go back to the Snapchat story, very funny. He just goes, okay, hope you have a great day. And like she puts like crying faces and like just says, thank you so much for understanding. And my friend, he makes the comment, and he's like, I just hope she's okay. And like, I mean, I'm thinking like, oh man, if my question mark sent her into this frenzy, is she like mentally stable enough to live her life? Should I call someone? Right? Bizarre. So there's a school board meeting. They're calling for action against this teacher. They want this teacher to be fired. Meanwhile, I'm going to bring this up. There was a Chicago teacher. You guys remember this, at Nathan Hill Elementary School. And during a No Kings protest, you guys remember those, funded by George Soros and billionaires and foreign governments and Chinese who hate us. The No Kings protest back in October. Okay, this teacher openly mocked the assassination of TPUSA co-founder Charlie Kirk, repeatedly making a shooting gesture at her neck. She was shielded from criticism. She was shielded from disciplinary action. Here's the clip in case you forgot, but this was a Chicago teacher as well. No discipline, no criticism, nothing. Take a look. Hey, you ever heard of Ozempic, you fat ass? So she mocked the death of Charlie Kirk, and she was a teacher, and she's got no disciplinary action. What a surprise. It happened actually in Normal, Illinois. There were comments made that were derogatory towards Christians. This was a sitting school board member, president, and there was no disciplinary action. There was a change.org. Somebody actually set out conservatives. They put out a petition to try to get that guy terminated or fired or removed from his role as school board president. Because he had made some derogatory comments towards Christians at the time of the Charlie Kirk assassination, made some mockery type comments about the Charlie Kirk assassination. People in the community were outraged by this. This is a unified school board, Alex Williams, and nothing ever happened, right? So not to our surprise, but this guy, for posting 2 words on social media that could be interpreted very, very different ways, he's going to risk losing his job because people are faux offended or actually offended and mentally ill. If you're actually offended by that, you're mentally ill and you need to be checked in. So if you actually think that this creates a dangerous and harmful climate, these 2 words on social media creates a dangerous and harmful climate within our schools, then I think you need to be checked in. Because how do 2 words affect an entire climate at a school district? I don't know. Bizarre. Two words that could be interpreted many different ways. Here, I think that I will not be shocked to find out if we find out that this individual at this school was actually trying to say "go ICE," as in "get out of our town, ICE," and these people have jumped on him for no reason. All right, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Don't drink city water if you live in a big blue city. Yep, no, definitely don't live in a big blue city. But I also have a filter. It's kind of nice. A filter like on the fridge. You like fill your water with the like. This is the first time I've ever had that. Growing up, we had like tiny little fridge. It's the first time we moved, and it came with a fridge that has like one of those cute little button things where you fill up your water. It's very cool. I love it. Kat, I shared your stream, so do appreciate it. Be sure to share and subscribe. Let's see. Lefties are all losing it because the jig is up. Corruption exposed. Yeah. Ilhan Omar and what appears to be a staged event. There should be an investigation into that. And I'm like 99.9% sure it is staged. I'm not going to say 100% staged because who knows? But like, there's that 0.1% where I'm like, okay, maybe. But then she like reads a script like that's almost too perfect. We're going to stand up no matter what they throw at us. And she reads it off the paper. I mean, gosh, there's no way. And they're losing it. And they're trying to, I mean, it's embarrassing. They're in panic mode to go to the extent of staging this attack or this throwing of an unknown substance on this, on the Congresswoman, Ilhan. To go to that extent tells me, wow, you guys really think that you're screwed. Anything to divert from the investigation. All right, let's see here. Explains how they spelled learning with leering. Yeah, I told you guys that the Somalian community, and this is just facts, and I'm not trying to, be nasty with this. It's just factual. Their average IQ in Somalia is like 60, 65. Here in the United States, it's 98. And I wouldn't say that the United States is like superior level of intelligence. Okay. But inbreeding definitely causes some of that lack of intelligence. I mean, we know this. And the bananas and rice girl, man, that was something to watch. And a lot of these Somalian people, they've come out and there was this one girl who came out and she said, we definitely shouldn't have fraud. And she kind of admitted she was like trying to advocate for more tax dollars to go to the child care. Trump has kind of paused all of that until, hey, let's figure out where this money's going and make sure that it's going to legitimate services that are given to the taxpayers in exchange for their money. So she was advocating for more childcare funding, but then she like let it slip and she was like, yeah, we're really not for fraud. And that should be, and then she like was like shocked that she admitted that there was fraud. And she like shuts up real quick. Have you guys seen that clip? I don't have it pulled up right now, but let's see. All right. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for all the comments. As usual, we'll be back tomorrow morning, bright and early, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Time. Somewhere around 6 a.m. I kind of have been hopping on late last few months, expecting a baby. So give me some grace. After baby comes, I'll probably be spot on 6 o'clock. I'm usually really early. But 6 a to 8 a Central Time. Be sure to subscribe and always visit patriotpumpenergy.com to support the program. Buy your bottle of premium pre-workout today. Promo code Conservative Cat. I love you guys. Catch you later.